Professional wrestling is the one true sport. Other sports have their share of intense, dramatic moments, but nothing can compare with professional wrestling. Welcome to Wrestling History X, where three friends come together to talk about the stories behind the matches. I'm Matt.
I'm a shark.
And I just drank a couple gallons of Agent Orange, so I am pervious to pain.
Welcome to episode 165, Fall Brawl 1995.
War Games. Let the games begin.
I think your eye's melting out of your face.
Oh yeah.
You shouldn't drink Agent Orange. I don't know why you thought it would give you superpowers. You're crazy.
Hey, I do what I can, or I do what it takes to sometimes make it through a WCW show.
I was told to do everything that Hulk Hogan did, and I would be fine.
Yeah,
right.
as far I thought Agent Orange was a vitamin. Don't let your eye leak out onto your cheek.
So this was the third annual Fall Brawl produced by WCW. It would take place on September 17th, 1995 from the Asheville Civic Center in Asheville, North Carolina, with an attendance of 6,600 people.
That's a lot of Ashvillians in one place. Ashvillians? Is that right?
Ashvillians.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the sweet spot we always talk about, but it looks like a nice filled civic center.
Yeah.
It's a good looking crowd. 6,000 is the sweet spot for both companies at this point, I think.
I mean, definitely more for WCW because, I mean, I guess WWF's running those smaller venues for in their houses. But
Yeah. They still are pulling fairly decent numbers.
Yeah,
on
they
their
still get the
bigger shows.
15 to 18 on their big shows.
Wow, damn. It's crazy.
It
Take
is
that.
it is.
It is crazy considering they brought Hogan in for probably a pretty penny, but they were not booking the bigger venues, and they're giving shows away for free on beaches.
Shopping malls.
Also, didn't realize this was only the third Fall Brawl, guys. Third Fall Brawl, and I think it started in 88, maybe?
As far as War Games.
Yeah.
First WarGames was Great American Bash 85.
Oh, wow. So even older. So this is 10 years,
10 years of War Games?
potentially.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's right. Because it was on that video that we watched.
Yeah, a lot of them,
first
they would
one
be
was.
on, like, American Bashes and stuff.
Yeah, it was Great American Bash.
Bash tours back then.
Yeah. I want to say it was 85. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
It just seems like we've had more Fall Brawls than 3. But hey, I trust the man.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because it's true. I know it's true.
I did my research.
Yeah, it's whenever it's like, oh, I guess not all the war games are on Fall Brawls. I just had to do some
That's true there.
mental backflips.
Yeah, because we've had some that were... Did we have one at Halloween Havoc?
No,
That was
that
a
was
cage.
the
That was, the
cage Chamber of Horrors.
Yeah.
match.
Was there one at Wrestle War? That would make sense, but I don't think so. I just know Wrestle War 89 is a great show.
Yeah.
Well, they did the 2 rings at Wrestle War 89, so...
Unless it was
But no, they did the
2-ring battle
2-ring
royal thing,
Battle Royal.
whatever you call that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Battle Bowl. Wait.
No, it wasn't a Battle
That
Bowl.
was Starcade.
It was just a 2-ring Battle Royal. But they must have done a War Games at that show. There's no reason they would have just had the 2 rings.
This gets to something that I thought about earlier. War Games, nobody's favorite gimmick. When I think of War Games, I think of like 3 things.
Sid Justice destroying Brian Pillman.
That's one. The other one is Dusty and the Road Warriors.
Mm-hmm. That was 85.
Yeah, and then the third thing, I don't know if everybody else is going to think of this, is the Zbyszko turn.
Oh. I mean...
And in my head, those are like
the Dangerous Alliance.
Those are the only memorable like War Games things to me at all.
The first time that
Pillman's
Arn
probably the
Anderson
best
was
thing.
upside down with his head between 2 rings.
Oh,
That
yeah.
one was awesome.
Oh, good on you. I was trying to
And
think.
then they brought back that same gimmick a couple War Games later, and it was horrible because you could see
the
his
gap.
head, just perfectly safe between the 2 rings.
like 6 inches on either side of his ear.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I usually think of is Arn and then the Dangerous Alliance WarGames, just because that was my favorite WarGames.
Yeah, that's the three for me. Is like, okay,
it was like a bloodbath.
Pillman's my favorite. Zabisco one was confusing, but I like Zabisco.
It still surprises every time I like just happen to go look for through the Meltzer 5-star matches. That Pillman one is a 5-star match, and I'm just like, how is that a 5-star match? I mean, it's Meltzer.
His opinion.
You can agree with it. You don't have to. Whatever.
It's like
It's
up to you whether you enjoy anything.
Standard way of just like looking at stuff because he's just been doing it for so long.
Yeah, because he's the second guy to do it.
But like every time I see that was a 5-star match, I'm just like, with that ending, that's a 5-star match for you.
It was just a Pillman coming out party, I guess.
But I'm just like,
perhaps
whatever.
Yeah. And I think the Dusty Road Warriors I remember because we basically watched a really weird version of it. And also, it's the Road Warriors and Dusty. Like, what a fun combo. Dusty's just trying to take some of their
Dusty, Road
heat.
Warriors, Four Horsemen.
Yeah, it's like, it's the guys. These are the guys. So, yeah, of course it's memorable.
was in that match.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember who the fourth one was.
As we'll see later in the show, like, one of these teams is not the Four Horsemen. They're the No Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of No Horsemen on this show.
They're the...
they're not even the Bunkhouse Stampede or whatever the hell they were called.
The Stud Stable?
Stud Stable.
This is still much better than the Bunkhouse Stampede. But we're in North Carolina.
We are.
So Shane, what did you bring us this week?
Well, I did my research and was looking up some North Carolina foods and beverages and whatnots. I contemplated bringing another burger, but I figured we had a burger last week, so I'd give us a gap in between burgers.
For our health.
Yes, but also for our health, I decided to bring something that I brought last time-ish. Last time I brought a beverage featuring frozen orange juice concentrate. This time I brought a beverage that features ready-made orange juice and a bunch of alcohol. Because, it's WCW, it's Fall Brawl. Got to have alcohol when you're watching WCW. Alcohol is also good in the fall, and it oftentimes will lead you to want to brawl. And this here cocktail concoction also plays into the show because, as my little introduction line said, I just drank a couple gallons of Agent Orange, and I'm impervious to pain.
Did you just feed us Agent Orange?
We did. You just ingested it.
Yeah, Matt's eyeballs down to his chin.
This just might be the last episode because we may all die.
Could be. This is the Agent Orange. It is some vodka, some Grand Marnier, a little triple sec, some orange juice. I feel like I'm forgetting another ingredient.
Is there spice in there?
There is, no.
Cumin?
No.
Not cumin, that's the wrong one. I was going to say nutmeg or clove.
No.
Because I keep getting like almost a little bit of heat off of something. Like something spicy.
I think it's just highly alcoholic.
Yes.
It might just be.
That's the Deep Eddy's orange vodka right there.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, it's
because
vodka.
my eye definitely twitched the first on that first drink.
Yeah, it's alcohol with alcohol and more alcohol with a little splash of OJ in there.
It is an orange juice martini of
Yes,
sorts.
and you drink a few of these or a couple gallons of this, and yes, you will be impervious to pain.
I would believe it.
So you made this up, or you looked up the cocktail?
No, I looked it up.
Okay.
I just looked because that line kept running through my head, so I was like, all right, let's see if we have a cocktail named Agent Orange.
He wrote that. He said that, and I was like, sure, Hogan. You shouldn't be talking about drinking fucking war crimes.
Figured I'd go a little fancier and went to Dollar Tree and got these cheapo martini glasses because we're
fancy.
We are.
Dollar Tree is great for some glasses.
We're over 10 years into some pay-per-views in wrestling history here, so we deserve a little step up in class instead of having to constantly drink from your little wrestling cups.
Yeah, they are cute, but they're not martini glass cute.
Yeah. Orange vodka, Grand Marnier, a little triple sec, OJ, and a little garnish of a orange peel.
Mm-hmm. You guys familiar with the song Code Blue by the California punk band Agent Orange?
Can't say that I am.
It's like their only popular song. I only know it because...
was it featured in any TV shows or movies?
I think Agent Orange might have been on Return of the Living Dead, but Code Blue, the song, like the chorus is, I wanna fuck the dead. So it's like pretty memorable. It's just like one of those songs you download off Napster when you get into punk music.
I would remember a song with those lyrics, so no, I have not heard it.
It's not great, but anytime somebody says Agent Orange, I'm like, oh yeah, the LA punk band, and then I'm like, oh, the one Agent Orange song I know. I'm sure they have better songs than that, but that's just the one that is memorable. And it may have been in Return of the Living Dead, but I don't know.
Maybe sometime if we're back in North Carolina, I'll have to bring a Carolina-style burger.
Mm-hmm. And I'll bring the Code Blue. It'll be a blueberry martini.
Code Red, just for something with a little easier to sip on.
Oh yeah. The thing about a martini is like you can't chug a martini. So that's the great thing about the martini glass is like, it's straight booze, so you're just gonna sip.
I remember when I worked at Olive Garden, we used to have a guy that would come in quite frequently, and he'd just walk up to the bar and ask for, a dirty vodka martini. I'd make it, hand him the glass, turn around to put his money in the drawer, and it would be slammed and gone by the time I turn around with his change.
They had a song on the Freddy Got Fingered soundtrack.
Oh, great movie.
Wouldn't have remembered that either because I hated that fucking movie so much.
I fucking love it so much. I didn't really quite like it as a kid, but as an adult, I've come to appreciate it in such a visceral way.
Maybe I'll have to give it another go because
you got to sit down with some friends and just take in the absurdity.
I tried watching it, and my nephew at the time was like in the annoying junior high age, so it was every little thing that they did in that fucking movie he wanted to repeat nonstop. So it was all day long of, Daddy, would you like some sausage?
Not even the best bit in the movie.
I mean, it was Tom Green being Tom Green doing Tom Green shit.
I'll send you a fun YouTube video, then you don't have to rewatch the movie.
But something that happened right around the same time as Fall Brawl, the movie To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, would be released to theaters the week before.
It was.
And who are our three major stars in this film? I can picture the cover.
Stars are Patrick Swayze. You've got Wesley Snipes.
Who's the third one?
John Leguizamo. And you also have Chris Penn. You've got Stockard Channing.
Okay.
You have that.
But those are the three that are drag queens.
The drag queens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You've got. I'm trying to remember all their characters' names. You've got Patrick Swayze, who was... I'll come back to it. You've got Wesley Snipes, who was Noxzema Jackson.
Noxzema.
You've got John Leguizamo, who was... Oh...
The Pest.
I mean, yeah. But
You ready? Are you ready for it?
Chichi
Rodriguez.
Oh.
There you go.
I'm still torn on what the hell Patrick Swayze's character's name was. It's something classic.
Vita?
Oh, yeah.
Vita?
Yeah.
How did you say it?
Vita Bohème or something like that. To Wong Foo, filmed in Nebraska during the summer of between my junior and senior year.
Did you know that it was being shot at the time that you lived there?
I did, and I went and auditioned because I was the actor of my school at the time. So I figured Hollywood's coming to Nebraska. This is my
only
opening.
shot.
If anybody is going to get it, why not me? And my sister Kelly's friend Denise drove me up there to...
Oh, that's a good friend.
I think it was... I don't remember where the hell we did the auditions at. Like the Pershing Auditorium or something like that. The Lead Center. Yeah. Did my open audition and I got a call back. And did another audition and got a call back.
Oh, wow.
And I came very close to being cast in the role until it was discovered that I did not get cast in a role opposite of Patrick Swayze, John Leguizamo,
oh
Wesley
my gosh.
Snipes.
It's even worse to get the callbacks than it is to just tell people, right?
Yeah.
That sounds
Like
awful.
You saw something in me. Just let me be a background person. Just let me come and play for the days.
Yeah. What was the role? I've not seen this movie.
It was one of the supporting roles. The character's name is Tommy Paul. He was like the punk kid of this little small Nebraska town that they end up broke down in, and he's basically like the ringleader or gang leader of the local teens.
You're telling me Michael Vartan beat you out for
Michael
a role?
Vartan, he stole my career. He went on, he ended up getting kissed by Drew Barrymore. He ended up being on Friends as Richard's son.
Most well known for being on Alias.
Nah, fuck him.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know who Michael
Jennifer
Vartan
Garner is most known for Alias.
I'm just saying that's what Michael Vartan is most known for.
Okay.
Yes. But yeah, Michael Vartan stole my career.
You should.
But without him doing that, I wouldn't be here in this chair, possibly.
Hey, we love that you're here. Yeah. I'm sorry, but did you love the movie when it came out?
I did.
Or did you have some weird FOMO anger?
Well, I was a teenage homo at the time, and I was
FOMO.
very much in the closet. But I had very much FOMO before knowing what FOMO was, because I knew I had to be a part of this, or at least experience the audition process, because it's not very often, at least at that time, that Hollywood would come to Nebraska to do much.
Yeah.
Other than, showcase somebody in their overalls doing chicken calls or something like that for a bit on the Tonight Show.
Yeah, wheat hanging out of their mouth or whatever.
Yeah. I say that because that's actually something that happened. One of the kids that I graduated with, his dad ended up on Jay Leno one night doing chicken calls because he was the
chicken call guy,
chicken call champion of Nebraska or something like that. Yeah.
So who was the real winner?
Travis Fox. That's who won. He was a former boss at Blockbuster, but he ended up being a production assistant on Tu Wong Fu. He got to get high with Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes.
Oh, that's cool.
At one point, he was on the Jerry Springer as the Barney Basher.
Mm. Would you say this is the first showing kind of I want to say homosexuality, but maybe even going even further to maybe just even drag
LGBT.
Side, yeah.
The drag side kind of being out there in
like as far as
Hollywood.
Was
around the time that things were starting
had Priscilla come out yet?
Not yet. I think that one was around the same time.
Okay.
Because I was going to say I've never seen this movie, but I have seen Paris is Burning, the documentary, which absolutely rules and everybody should watch. But I imagine, but it's obviously more authentic, and this is a comedy. But I don't know how much the joke is that they're dressed up as ladies, or if it has. I'm sure it has some heart to it, but it is technically a comedy, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's very much a comedy.
But it's not like a gay panic comedy.
No.
Okay.
I mean,
I was just curious because that's kind of what it looks like.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is the first time that I was probably had ever seen drag queens at all.
Yeah,
like,
this
growing up in Oklahoma, I was 14 years old.
When does RuPaul be a thing?
It's around that same time because RuPaul was in the Brady Bunch movie, and the Brady Bunch movie was.
I saw the Brady Bunch movie in the theater.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I saw that movie in the theater.
Jan's high school guidance counselor. Come back when you're pregnant.
And then I guess the other one would be Hairspray with Divine.
Yeah,
because Divine's not trans, just a big fat gay drag queen.
Yeah,
love Divine.
But yeah, this was around the time that things started really turning on the LGBTQ, however many other things you put in there.
I mean, I guess Philadelphia had come out earlier in the year.
Philadelphia was out a couple years before or a year before.
Yeah.
The Crying Game.
The Crying Game.
See, I've never seen The Crying Game.
Crying Game is actually way better than I expected.
I'm sure it is. It's one of those, like, when it came out, I was way too young for it.
Oh, no, yeah, I watched it a few years ago where, like, the power was out in this house, and me and my two roommates, we were just, like, sitting in the backyard, and I had an iPad that was, like, part of my phone plan. So I just used data, and we sat there, and we, like, sat on the back porch and watched The Crying Game, and we were like, damn, this is really good. And then the power finally came on, and we went inside and watched the last 15 minutes. We're like, damn. Never saw The Crying Game. Don't know why that was the movie that I picked. Like, hey, have you ever seen The Crying Game? It was like, we're just sitting here waiting.
Hey, I mean,
so,
it was one
Crying
of those
Game. Watch it on your porch.
Award contenders of its day. I mean, even Tu Wong Fu. It was nominated for a couple of Golden Globes.
But even The Crying
Patrick
Game.
Patrick Swayze got nominated for Best Actor. John Leguizamo got nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Really?
Yeah.
Tu Wong Fu?
For Tu Wong Fu.
Damn, I gotta watch Tu Wong Fu. But even then, like, for every positive thing, there's, Ace Ventura, which is almost just a Crying Game joke, which is like one of the most fucking evil piece of shit endings. But I mean, I love that movie as a kid, but I didn't.
This is where the mid '90s gay explosion, pun not intended but totally intended, it took place because that's when things were starting to gear. It was more okay to make gay-friendly films. You had The Birdcage that came out not long after this one. Another mid-90s classic that was a favorite of mine was Threesome with Stephen Baldwin, Josh Charles, and Lara Flynn Boyle. Yeah, I remember watching that one going, oh my God, that's me. Because it was, in typical gay movies or things like that, it was usually a guy who was dressing in drag or acted super feminine or something like that. And this was just a regular dude that was just a regular dude that the girls liked, but he had other interests. And it was like, oh my God, this is so fucking cool.
What about the Elton from Clueless, too?
Yeah.
I mean, that one was more obvious. That's just Cher kind of being a dummy.
Yeah.
But, it's like, that thing where it's like, a lot of people might look back on those movies and view them as, like, not being like, moderately problematic, but at the time, that's not the case. It's like, they had the right intention, but nothing really ages well, especially when you're dealing with a social issue. Considering hopefully those things progress with time.
This one, I mean, we'd had some major movies that had filmed in Nebraska before, like Terms of Endearment filmed there when I was a kid, because I remember getting to play with the kids from the movie because they were filming where my mom was working, and she brought me to work to
Shane.
help keep the kids distracted.
For being a guy from Ohio, or not Ohio,
Nebraska.
From Nebraska. I was meant to say Omaha, but I don't even know if we were from Omaha.
No, I'm from the Lincoln Creek.
But yeah, the other town in Nebraska.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like you've had a lot of bizarre run-ins with Hollywood-esque things.
Oh yeah, I mean, I auditioned for The Real World while living in Nebraska. Tu Wong Fu, it brought more movies. Shortly after it, you had Election.
It's a great movie.
That one.
God
filmed.
damn.
I tried to audition.
Terms of Endearment, also a great movie.
You had Boys Don't Cry. That was based on something that happened not too far from where I lived.
Oh yeah, I know that one. What an upsetting movie.
Yeah. I mean, Alexander Payne, he brought a lot of films to Nebraska about the Nebraska area. The movie Nebraska about Schmidt.
It's a lot of late '90s stuff that wanted to play around in those places nobody talks about, like Fargo, like the movies you just named. A Simple Plan, a movie I just watched recently, where I was like, nobody talks about this one enough, but it also has that thing where it's like, just these forgotten parts of America, and being like, we can tell a story here.
Yep. And
it's cheaper because we're not shooting in LA.
But yeah, if you've never seen Tu Wong Fu, check it out. It's worth the watch.
Absolutely. Well, let's head on to Fall Brawl and see what's happening there.
The brawl to fall them all.
That's right.
We get narration over shots of the competitors for the evening with a war-style animation before the Fall Brawl WarGames logo comes onto the screen.
And tanks. And it's purple. And it's yellow.
Tony Schiavone welcomes us to the show, and he is joined by Bobby the Brain Heenan for commentary.
You know who's not there?
Mongo.
Thank you.
Mongo
and Eric Bischoff.
Number by.
He's somewhere.
I'm sure he's in the back doing something.
Yeah.
They preview the matches and also tell us that the Giant had come to the arena in a monster truck running over Hogan's motorcycle.
You son of an Andre.
So WWF of you. I say that, but, we've had the beach grenade with the little people, and we've had the White Castle. We had Jake in a BDSM bar. We've had some stuff. We've got the Dungeon of Doom now.
I think WCW at this point is the leader in these kind of things.
Yeah, for sure.
WWF is going to have their Billionaire Ted skits coming up here soon, but
we can't all have. They can't all be as simple and tasteful as Macho Man around a cauldron with Sherri.
Yeah. But we head straight to our first match. Flyin, Brian Pillman.
Like it.
Versus Johnny B. Bad.
Like that.
In a number 1 Contenders match for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship.
I mean, this is where we've been missing Pillman. And honestly, I've been missing Bad too.
Johnny, yeah.
Yeah, but this is where these guys belong. Yeah. Starting off the match hot.
This was their spot for the longest time. Kicking off the show and setting the pace.
And I'd say that they
do it.
They did it well most of the time.
So Michael Buffer makes the announcements. So let's get ready to be confettied by the Bad Blaster.
And don't forget these brand new Frisbees. The man's been gone. He came back with Frisbees.
Damn right.
So the two men shake hands to begin before a feeling out process, with each working wrist locks and headlocks, followed by both going for a drop kick at the same time. More wrist locks and arm locks shared between the two with athletic escapes before each get near falls on roll-ups.
And Tony Schiavone is putting over this demeanor of Brian Pillman. He's not all smiles. He's got some more of a game face on. There's always a game face. This one feels like it's got a little bit of a frown.
They now start working headlocks and chin locks when Pillman hits a backbreaker to escape and applies a Boston Crab. Flyin Brian then throws a closed fist to bust open Bad over his eye, but Johnny recovers to deliver a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker for a 2 count. Bad starts working the leg, transitioning into a modified surfboard, but Pillman makes the ropes to break the hold. The two men just start shoving each other before Flyin Brian corners Johnny, catching him with a back elbow. Bad begins to fire back, which sends Pillman to the floor to regroup. But once he's back in, he asks for a handshake again, followed by a cheap shot, and tossing Johnny out to the floor. Once Bad is back on the apron, Flyin Brian meets him there with some right hands, biting at the cut, and goes to smash his face on a turnbuckle. But Johnny reverses, forcing Pillman to eat buckle, followed by a slingshot leg drop for a near fall.
I know the fans are picking up on this new mean Pillman with some booze. I don't feel like we've seen him heel for quite a while.
Bad goes back to a chin lock, only for Flyin Brian to fight his way out when they both try for Thez presses for a double KO. Johnny's up first, but Pillman is right there to knock him down again with a headbutt for another double KO. Brian's up first this time to take control with turnbuckle smashes and kicking Bad out to the floor. And Buffer says there is 5 minutes remaining.
And I love the double drop kick, double Thez press for callback. They're just really putting on a, what is the word we say for here? Clinic.
Johnny makes his way back to the apron where the two men fight over a suplex, ending in Pillman being brought out to the floor. Bad follows up with a plancha before they head back into the ring, where Johnny heads up top, only for Flyin Brian to meet him up in the air with a dropkick for a 2 count.
Beautiful. I know, he just gets the chest, just the top of the chest. It looks so good.
Yep.
Pillman then telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Bad to hit a sit-out powerbomb for a near fall, as there are 3 minutes remaining. Flyin Brian with a tombstone piledriver for the pin, and no, Johnny kicks out. Pillman then goes for a tornado DDT, only for Bad to shove him off and make a cover for a 2 count. Johnny then goes for an armbar, as there are 2 minutes remaining. Looks to deliver a body slam, but Brian floats over to hit a Russian leg sweep and locks on a Koji clutch. With 1 minute remaining, he transitions into a 3-quarter Nelson, only for Bad to fight out and deliver the Tutti Frutti punch for the pin. And no! Pillman's foot is under the ropes. 15 seconds left. Flyin Brian springboards off the ropes with the air Pillman for a near fall. Tries for a backslide as the bell rings, as time has expired.
Whew.
But
Record scratch.
Bum, bum, bum.
the ref, Nick Patrick, makes the decision that there must be a winner. So the match continues.
It's so good because these guys are fucking killing it. And if this wasn't so good, you'd be like, thank God, who cares? But now you're like, we're actually going to get a winner. You're like, okay, well, they're just setting it up for a rematch. But it's like, oh, wait, they said it's for number 1 contender. We have to have a winner. And you were so bummed that there wasn't a winner that this is kind of the perfect time to do that. I was legitimately excited, fucking 25 years later watching it.
It was an exciting spot right there. The only thing that brought that little moment down was that the announcers and Michael Buffer seemed to struggle with figuring out what sudden death meant, because it's like they were fumbling and adding extra words that didn't need to be there, and
It's like the next guy that
they're
pins
giving
the guy
him an extra second to take a breather, but it's like, come on.
We're not going to boxing judge round rules.
Yeah,
that would be
sudden death
that would
rules.
suck.
I mean, first pin is usually how it goes. So
Yeah.
The two men brawl their way out to ringside, where Johnny is set into a guardrail. Back in the ring, Flyin Brian goes to the top rope, coming off with a missile dropkick, only for Bad to meet him with a dropkick of his own to send them both crashing down to the mat. Pillman's up first and he applies a sleeper, transitioning into a body scissors as well for the full effect. But Johnny reaches the ropes to break the hold. Bad then grabs a sleeper of his own, only for Brian to escape with a back suplex. Pillman puts Johnny on the turnbuckle and setting him up for a superplex. But Brian is shoved off, followed by Bad flying off with a sunset flip for the pin. And no! Pillman kicks out. Johnny then goes for a powerbomb, but Brian counters with a hurricanrana that gets a near fall.
It's a nasty one, too.
Pillman tries for a crucifix, but Bad catches him and falls back on Flyin Brian for a 2 count. Johnny then sets Pillman up on the turnbuckle for a super Frankensteiner, getting a near fall. He goes for another one, but Flyin Brian counters it into a tornado DDT for a 2 count. Pillman then heads up top, only for Bad to fall into the ropes, causing Brian to crotch himself and allowing Johnny to throw him off into the guardrail, chest first.
And Pillman's arm gets caught in the steel.
Bad then flies over the ropes with Tope Conillo before dragging Pillman back into the ring and attempting a slingshot splash from the apron, only for Brian to get his knees up, making a cover for a near fall.
Jeebus.
I know, is fucking Johnny B. Bad been hanging out in Japan or something? Did he go do a Best of the Super Juniors we didn't know about? Because Jesus. I mean, these guys have been partners for a while, but they're just, my God.
Pillman hits a rubber band slam that causes Johnny to fall out to the floor and try to regroup, until Flyin Brian delivers a tope suicida, which almost doesn't connect as Bad was a little too far away.
Oh, yeah, and it's like towards the rampway, Brian just pancakes himself. He may have saved his head because that's the only part that got anywhere near the man.
Yeah, definitely more suicida than tope.
Pillman makes his way back into the ring first, so when Johnny makes it to the apron, Brian attempts a springboard dropkick, only for Bad to duck, causing Pillman to crotch himself again.
Damn it.
The two men then start running the ropes, where they each go for crossbodies. But it's Johnny who lands on top for the pin and the win.
Perfect finish.
Woo.
They teased the spot 3 times. 3rd time was the finish. Johnny Bad had the weight advantage.
Welcome back to both of you.
My God, what a fucking! I did not expect. Like I was like, cool, this will be good, but
When they're gone for as long as they were, you forget how good they really are.
I meant like this is easily the best match they've had together. This is incredible. I love this. I loved everything about this.
Would you decide to put it on some kind of list?
Absolutely.
I second that.
This is like, you know, the way I feel about the match I always talk about. Kind of feel that way about this one. That match being, of course, Beach Blast 92. But anyway, I do love that Johnny yells to the camera, "I love you, mama," which I thought was very sweet.
I love that Bobby chimes in right after that and starts making fun of him.
Of course he does. Bobby's not going to let that pass. If he
was his mama.
Uh-huh.
We go to the back and Mean Gene is there with Ric Flair. And the Nature Boy puts up 4 fingers, saying this was a sign of excellence, as me and Arn have seen them come and we've seen them go. We bled together and at times we cried together, but we shared a bond. We never had family until we became family. But today we don't walk side by side. We go out from opposite ends of the building. Most people don't get the opportunity to be around greatness, much less touch greatness. And tonight, AA, you are going to face greatness.
Mean Gene asks him, "Do you hate the man?"
Flair says he loves him, but there's only one king of the hill, and it's gonna be me.
It's gonna be me.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
No! Flair's always a good promo, always an acceptable promo, but he's got something to work with here, so you're just like, it's like, no, I love him, and you're like, fuck, Jesus, man. As if you couldn't have just been like, oh, Ric Flair and Arn Anderson for no reason, and I would have been stoked. It's like, oh, well, you can't. You'd have to be stupid to do it for no reason.
Yeah.
You do it for a promo like this.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We then go to our second match. Cobra versus Sergeant Craig Pittman. Now, there was a story behind this match.
Sorry.
I'm excited to hear this because
I was like,
oh,
is that Firebreaker Chip?
So Cobra was part of the CIA Special Forces.
Yes, that he's CIA. He
and
looks
our
like a
two
CIA
men
agent.
had served together in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, because old Cobra looks for sure old enough to have been in Vietnam.
And Cobra says that Pittman left him behind on a mission, and now it's payback time.
So Cobra's the face? Or
Yes.
the villain? Okay.
He's definitely the face, because as we're about to find out what Pittman does.
So last
Which,
time,
I mean, if he was Hogan, I guess we would be confused.
So the last time we saw Cobra was at Super Brawl 4, episode 112, as Lightning in a tag team match.
Lightning. So he's not Firebreaker Chip or like
No.
I was really
FCO.
thinking that's who it was when he first started walking down.
What was the other guy? Firebreaker Chip and
Todd Champion.
Todd Champion.
Yes. Yeah, that's who I thought, not Firebreaker Chip. I thought Todd Champion just because he's a big old buff dude.
Yeah.
But even though we've seen him as Lightning, he's going to be better known as NWO Sting.
Oh,
This is Jeff Farmer.
okay.
Jeff Farmer. Should he have stayed on the farm? We'll answer this question after the break.
So after Cobra makes his way to the ring, Sarge's music starts playing. But it's not him that comes down to the ring. It's someone from his platoon. And that person is the future Prince Iakea.
Also the future artist formerly known as Prince Iakea.
I love
A.K.A. Taft Cappy.
Taft Cappy. What a name. I love that Cobra takes, he does the Bret Hart gimmick. And instead of giving his glasses to a child,
He gives the dog
give dog
tags.
tags to a kid. And I'm like, cool idea.
Yeah.
Did you talk to Sting? Where he's like, well, I don't know. I just kind of do the woo different.
Cobra starts yelling at the young man to go get Pittman. When Sarge all of a sudden rappels down from the
From the rafters.
the rafters.
From the catwalk, the rafters. He comes
So
down from the
wait,
top of the building.
Sarge is auditioning to be future Sting. Okay.
Pittman, it's just straight out of a Goldman Globus 80s action movie. You know, all those B action movies we love so much.
Pittman sneaks behind Cobra to attack him with a bandolier, which is the gun.
The gun belt.
The bullet
Belt.
vest.
Mm-hmm.
Choking him, followed by saluting the young man, thanking him for his help. Sarge then tosses Cobra out to the floor and following out with a leaping stomp off the apron. Cobra reverses a whip, sending Pittman into a ring post before they head back into the ring. Cobra then climbs to the top rope, coming off with a shoulder block, only for Sarge to avoid and lock in the code red for the submission and the win.
Submit the code red is just an armbar, guys.
And after this match, I wrote, Cobra is kind of worthless. I'd probably leave him on a mission too.
What I wrote was weird. Everything about that was weird.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what to make of this. Weird.
Yeah, I was all confused. That's why I had to ask if Cobra was the face, because it made no sense to me, because you've got an army guy, a.k.a. G.I. Joe, going against Cobra.
Which, when you think about
Which
it,
is
he's,
the bad guy.
he's the G.I. Joe, but his name is
Cobra,
Cobra.
which is the bad
He's
guy's
bad
guy
guy.
from G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe.
That's why I was all kinds of confused with it. Like, you come in here looking like Todd Champion, but apparently you're the future Sting.
And the other guy looks like a heel. He's got a big, mean face. And he repelled from the ceiling.
Yeah.
So it's like, how is
That's
that the good guy?
fucking cool.
It's cool. He's like, yeah, but it's like, the other guy is but he's left him. And all I'm saying is it didn't.
And then he hired a little kid to be in on the job.
It didn't take too much time. So I will say that no matter what it was quick and moderately memorable.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
We can at least be like, hey, sometimes this is what wrestling does. No wonder you think that we're weirdos.
Shivani and the Brain then discuss Paul Orndorff before they send it to a video package.
I guess he had a match with Macho, and he lost, and it made him weird.
Mr. Wonderful has definitely been having some bad luck, and he's yelling at himself in his locker room when Gary Spivey would visit him.
Uncle of Daniel. No, not true. He just had the same last name.
Gary Spivey is a motivational speaker and psychic that has been on many radio and TV shows. I think he was on some Leno's back in the day.
I couldn't stop looking at his stainless steel, scrubby, painted gray.
It kind of looks like a if you took silly string and made like an afro helmet out of it. It's a very funny look, but he's what we'd call on the outside of the nut house as a freak.
Yeah,
he's a freak. Psychic. Get out of here.
Well, Gary reminds Orndorff that he is indeed Mr. Wonderful because the people still think of him as Mr. Wonderful.
Or Paula. So his close friends.
Orndorff then takes a long look in the mirror before kissing his reflection.
I am Mr. Wonderful. I am Mr. Wonderful. I am Mr. Wonderful. The best is the quick cuts before he shows up, and it's just Paul Orndorff doing a character that's not just a by and by buff heel. It's so weird and kind of charming because we all love Paul Orndorff, right? I mean, what's not to love about Paul Orndorff? He's Mr. Wonderful.
It makes me nervous though.
But when he kisses the mirror, it's so funny.
Yeah. Makes me a little nervous what the fuck they're gonna do with him.
I mean, he had a really good showing there a couple of years ago in WCW. I was particularly very high on him.
Yes, thank you, Mick Foley.
But he was a huge star in the Madison Square Garden era of WWF.
How does Paul Roma become a horseman but not Paul Orndorff?
Wow, who knows?
I just don't get it.
Why does anything happen in wrestling? That's why it's so interesting. It's just as much fun to talk about the weirdness, the people that should have been, people that got too much, people that didn't get enough.
We then go to our third match, Diamond Dallas Page with the Diamond Doll and Max Muscle versus the Renegade with Jimmy Hart for the WCW World Television Championship.
Oh, Renegade.
After running down to the ring and scaring DDP off, he turns to celebrate with the crowd, which allows Page to attack from behind before hitting a Russian leg sweep. Renegade then no-sells a headbutt, which sends DDP out to the floor, where Page is staggered enough to run into the ring post before falling into the crowd.
Self-post.
Renegade then drags DDP back to ringside to slam his head against the apron before rolling back into the ring, where Page cowers backwards toward the corner before pulling the Renegade by the trunks into the turnbuckle. DDP looks to keep up the attack with more turnbuckle smashes, but Renegade blocks and delivers a back elbow and slams Page's head instead. Renegade grabs a headlock
Bum, bum, bum.
before blasting DDP with a clothesline for a 2 count.
We'll say Rennie's side headlock, his best looking move. His side headlock looks a little bit more intense than some other people's. There's not a whole lot of gap in it. I was, call me crazy, moderately impressed with his side headlock.
Okay, I mean, his side headlock definitely does look better than his clothesline.
His side headlock looks better than some other guys' side headlocks. Some wrestlers' side headlocks.
Renegade then misses a crossbody as Page ducks, sending him crashing into the ropes, allowing DDP to take control with chokes along the ropes. And Page yells at the Diamond Doll to give him a 10 for the move, which I guess this is part of his gimmick where the Diamond Doll had cards with numbers, and he have her
Yeah, see, I'm trying to remember all that. I mean, I guess now that he's in Vegas, he wants to have that, ring girl image.
Yeah.
And she's conflicted about doing it,
She
of
is.
course, because she's been conflicted about Diamond Dallas Page for 8 months to a year now.
They roll back into the ring where he hits a swinging neckbreaker, and he asks for another 10. DDP tosses Renegade out to the floor, but he pops right back up to come back in with a sunset flip, which Page just drops his knees down, holding onto the ropes for a 2 count, only for the Renegade to then power through for a near fall of his own. Page comes right back with a clothesline and a spear into the corner, goes for a second spear, only for the Renegade to move to avoid, sending DDP into the ring post, shoulder first.
Posted.
Page telegraphs a back body drop after a whip, allowing the Renegade to kick him in the teeth, followed by several clotheslines and a handspring back elbow.
Hey, who knew Rennie could do that? Somebody should have helped him out with the other stuff, because he did a handspring back elbow, and it doesn't look like ass.
Huh. I mean, it's definitely better than any handspring back elbow that I could do.
Could you, I just can't imagine the guy, it's all about getting the right distance. Like, you can't go in too deep, you can't go in too far. It's like, well, maybe he was a fucking gymnast.
People who suck are usually good at, at least one thing.
Uh-huh.
So,
I mean, look at Johnny B. Bad, who at one point, all he had was the top rope sunset, and has worked up from there.
Now he's shortlisted.
Renegade goes up top, coming off with a double axe handle for a 2 count. But DDP comes right back with a chin breaker, followed by a DDT. Page goes for the diamond cutter, only to be shoved off into the turnbuckle, allowing Renegade to roll up DDP for the pin. And No! Page kicks out. Muscle then jumps on the apron with Jimmy Hart walking over, yelling at him to get down, while Renegade reverses an Irish whip, sending DDP into Maxx to knock him off to the floor. Renegade then delivers a power slam before heading up top for a flying splash. But instead of flying into the ring, he goes out onto Muscle.
Boom.
What?
He's as smart as the Warrior, I guess.
He's changing up his whole moveset.
Renegade makes his way back into the ring, but Maxx holds him up by his foot, allowing Page to hit the diamond cutter for the pin and the win. And no!
Give us a 10 for that.
I love
10, fucking 10.
That's a really good Jimmy Hart.
That was a Varsity Blues
Oh, okay.
reference.
Okay. Haven't seen Varsity Blues.
Close enough, I guess.
There's Bobby Heenan.
Well, you weren't a high schooler when that came out. Never mind.
No, but I remember the movie. I should have seen it, but I just never got to it. Bobby Heenan says he calls it a zircon cutter. The guy's not a real diamond. And I was like, zirconia. Cubic zirconia. Bobby Heenan. Zircon cutter. And I'm like, I know what you're trying to do here. And I know that you dropped out of school when you were fucking 11. But cubic zirconia. I'm sure that you've wined and dined a lady with a fake ring before, Bobby Heenan. You just feel like that kind of guy.
Or maybe he hasn't.
Maybe he's a. I mean, we all know he's a real diamond, but zircon. It's like, what a gem, pun intended.
We get Tony and Bobby previewing our next match. Before we head to it, our 4th match, Harlem Heat of Booker T and Stevie Ray with Sister Sherri versus the Stud Stable of Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater with Colonel Robert Parker for the WCW World Tag Team Championships. So the last time we saw the tag team belts, Harlem Heat had retained at Bash at the Beach in that three-way match.
Where we're like, oh, it's a 3-way match. There's no way they're going to retain it because they don't have to be pinned. But they did.
But since then, the Stud Stable had won them on an episode of WCW Saturday Night.
Oh.
A week after the Bash at the Beach show. Also, the last time we saw the Stud Stable was at Great American Bash 95, which was episode 154. So it's been a few episodes since we've seen them. Also, at the last Clash of the Champions, which we didn't cover, but this helps us understand a little bit of the story.
Clash of Titans is important, but we typically only cover it if there's a big title change or a famous match.
Yep.
But Clash of Champions essentially exists to set up feuds for these shows.
The way I understood it, it was like a 6-person match, Harlem Heat and Sherri versus Stud Stable and Parker. Mm-hmm. During the course of that match, Sherri hit her head.
Oh, no.
Which all of a sudden made her fall in love with Colonel Parker.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that it was the hit the head thing, because I didn't know about them having a thing until this match. They didn't tell me that she hit her head. So this is just a pure pulled out of like mid-tier sitcom angle. This is a B to C level WWF plot from a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Love it. I'm here for it.
So Tony shills the WCW hotline while waiting on everybody to get into the ring, telling us that somebody somewhere has jumped promotions. And I literally went, at this point, they could mean anybody.
Yeah, Sabu.
Exactly.
Who you have not seen.
So the match gets going as Booker starts us off with a clothesline to Slater, but Dirty Dick comes back with an STF that Booker T escapes for Harlem Heat to work him over with a Stevie Ray body slam and an elbow drop for a 2 count.
Bunkhouse has really turned up the grease on his hair. He looks grosser than ever. It's great.
Slater finally makes it to his corner for Buck to come in to work on Booker, but Harlem Heat is able to make the tag to reverse their fortunes, as Stevie Ray hits a clothesline and starts choking Bunkhouse Buck. Booker T's back in with a leg lariat to keep control, following up with a hip toss and a knee drop for a 2 count. Stevie Ray's in with a throat thrust that sends Buck scrambling for a tag. So when Dirty Dick comes in, Stevie continues the punishment in the corner with mounted punches, only for Slater to escape with an atomic drop and a swinging neckbreaker for a near fall. Booker's back in, only to be tossed to the ropes, where Bunkhouse Buck gets a knee to the back, followed by Dirty Dick tossing him out to the floor. Buck then hits a running clothesline with his bull rope, forcing Sherri to come help Booker T back to the ring.
And they keep doing some sister cam, and she's looking over at Colonel Rob, and he's looking back over at her, and I believe he's just twirling a flower around in his fingers. So you're thinking Sister Sherri might not be there for them, but even though that's been happening, she's still there for her tag team when she needs to be.
The Stud Stable continues to work over Booker, including a Russian leg sweep and a pile driver by Slater for a 2 count. Bunkhouse Buck chokes Booker T before just tossing him out to the floor, where Dirty Dick slams his head into a guardrail. Back in the ring, the Stud Stable continues to wear down Booker until he is able to ram Buck into the corner. Tries for a drop kick, only for Bunkhouse Buck to avoid. Slater with a back suplex for a near fall, knees, elbows, and jabs for multiple 2 counts, followed by the Stud Stable with a double boot to the midsection. Buck is back in with stomps and a chin lock when Booker T tries to fight back, only to be body slammed by Bunkhouse Buck. Dirty Dick with a swinging neckbreaker before rolling Book over into a Boston Crab. But Stevie Ray makes the save with a pump kick, only for Buck to come in and continue with a single leg crab. Bunkhouse Buck then telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Booker T to hit an axe kick across the back before making the crawl to the corner for the hot tag. Stevie's in with right hands and a body slam on everybody, clotheslines to Slater to leave him dangling on the ropes, followed by a power slam to Buck. Stevie Ray makes the cover, only for Dirty Dick to break it up. Booker and Slater then begin to brawl in a corner, while Bunkhouse Buck pulls Stevie through the ropes to the floor, allowing Buck to help Dirty Dick with double team fists. Stevie Ray's back in to break up the pin when the camera pans out, so we get the full view of both rings. And we see Sherri and Colonel Parker standing on the apron of the second ring across from each other. Sister Sherri starts to crawl seductively towards Parker, while in the other ring, Booker T clotheslines Buck and himself over to the floor, followed by Stevie charging at Slater, only for Dirty Dick to avoid. The two managers then start making out when the Nasty Boys run down to the ring, knocking out Slater with his own boot, allowing Stevie Ray to make the cover for the pin and the win. And new
again.
Post-match, Bunkhouse Bunk isn't too happy with the Colonel, while Harlem Heat doesn't seem too happy with Sherri either.
It's all part of her psychology. That's what she says. It's all part of the psychology. It's okay. We won.
Shivani tells us that earlier in the night on Main Event, the show that happened as the kind of like the pre-show for the pay-per-view, the stud stable had cost the Nasty Boys a match with the American Males.
Ooh.
So this was all retaliation.
And at least they kind of waited till the end of the finish, set something up. Bobby Heenan says, about them making out. Boy, if he got any closer, he'd be behind her. And I said, Jesus Christ, Bobby, that's pretty graphic.
Yep.
We get Mean Gene in the entryway to catch up with Buck and Parker. And Bunkhouse Bucks tells the Colonel that he is all out of sorts. But Parker says he is serious about that young lady. But he will help them get another match. And his heart is soaring like an eagle. And he feels like he's 20 years old.
I love that in the back there's the Jumbotron, the series of like 9 televisions or whatever.
Yep.
But they're just like replaying the kiss over the like shoulders of the men during the interviews, and it's just so great and so well framed.
Oh, Sherri. You didn't have to take a bump. You had to make out with old Parker.
She's like, I'm bumped out, guys. You've seen all these crazy splashes I've done.
She may have taken a bump before she made out with Parker, too.
They probably took some bumps
wrestling
together.
in the 90s. Anything's possible.
Wrestling in the 90s from wrestlers in the 80s.
We then get an ad for Halloween Havoc. Before we go to the back with Mean Gene, there with Arn Anderson.
Ooh, Mean Gene is out of breath. He had to run there.
Okerlund sends us to a video package about the history of the Enforcer and Flair, where we get multiple highlights where the two have shared the ring and helped each other out, including when they lost to Vader at the last Clash of the Champions. Nature Boy had alienated everybody ever since Hogan had gotten here, because he strives to be number one. And Anderson disapproves of some of Nature's tactics during a match, which would cause even more problems when they decide to face each other in this match. We go back live with Double A, and he says, I loved and hated with a passion and a vengeance. Everybody has had that family member where you had to just grab them and shake them because words no longer matter. We are brothers, but it's something that has to happen because in the morning, I have to answer to me. Okerlund then sends it back to Tony and Heenan, asking them what they thought of this match.
I love he says, I'm a nervous wreck, and I've loved you more than God. And I'm like, God damn, Arn.
And see, I thought as he was talking about the in the morning I have to answer to me, all I could think of was Mr. Wonderful standing in front of the mirror. I'm Mr. Wonderful.
I'm Mr. Wonderful.
And you've got Arn. I'm the Enforcer. Double A.
Oh, it would be like, as much as we love Paul Orndorff, Double A doing something that goofy is a little much. Orndorff, he's been around longer.
He did a bucket on the head.
He came out.
He did do a bucket on the
tied
head.
up.
He did a bucket on the head, but he didn't talk to himself in a mirror. To Ramen Man.
So that leads us right into our fifth match. The Enforcer, Arn Anderson, versus the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And we get a handful of the boys, such as the American Males, Brian Pillman, Big Bubba Rogers, Colonel Parker,
Sorry, I got excited.
Alex Wright, and Eddie Guerrero, all watching from the front row. We get a feeling out process until a shoving match breaks out.
1 second. There's Flair 316 signs.
Is there?
Yes, there's a Flair 316 sign. You see it multiple times on the intro for Arn and the intro to Rick. So I had to do some research right before this gets started.
Okay.
I had to do some research. Austin probably pulled that from, I believe, in the 80s and 90s. There was a fan of, he may have been a college football team or whatever, but it was a sign that was infamous and used at large sporting events throughout the 80s and 90s. Something, whatever, 316. So the
John.
Rick 316, it was probably John, but it might have been the sports team or whatever. But I think he was like a weird religious fanatic and sports team fanatic. Maybe I'll look it up and we'll talk about it after the show's over. But either way, the 316 thing was already in the ether. So there's probably why Stone Cold, that was in his head enough to pull from for his famous
Possibly,
promo.
But with the famous promo, Jake was already doing little preacher things.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
doing a preacher
yeah,
gimmick at that
yeah.
time.
He, I guess he was as well.
That's
But this
why,
316
Austin
thing,
comes
like
out
seeing
with
Flair
the,
316,
Talk about your Psalms.
it blew my mind because I obviously
Talk
knew
about
Austin.
your John 3:16. Austin 3:16 said, "I just whipped your
Yeah,
ass."
but even with his preacher thing, the John 3:16, it also being one of the most famous Bible passages, that being a large sporting event phenomenon of some degree, it just kind of opened my eyes in a weird way.
What if John 3:16 was like the official religious or Bible quote of the World Fair of 1964?
You got there. It was in your head. I saw it.
Sorry, it's that Agent Orange. It's melting my brain.
Double A slaps Nate to send him out to the floor to regroup. Back in the ring, Arn works over the arm when Flair shoves him off, only for the Enforcer to slap him once more. The two men go to the mat back and forth, with Anderson getting the advantage to start working the arm again. Back to their feet, the Nature Boy delivers a chop that stings Double A, but then runs into an elbow in the corner, allowing Arn to apply a sleeper. Nate backs the Enforcer into the corner to break the hold, but Anderson leaps off the second rope with a knee before delivering a hammerlock slam and start working the arm once more.
After Arn slaps Rick for the second time, Bobby Heenan, distraught, just says, "What's wrong here?" Because it's like these two best friends are heels. Bobby's obviously gonna be been rooting for them forever, and he just says, "It's Hogan," and I'm like, "Thank you, Bobby. We all know what's wrong here. You've been talking about. You were drunk on air a few times over it."
I mean, these are two of his former boys.
He respects these
They're
men.
part of the Heenan family at one point.
They're very respectful men.
Double A then drags Flair to the corner to slam the arm against the ring post. Before hitting an arm breaker DDT and lock on an arm bar.
Why doesn't he call it an arm bar?
Might as well. The Nature Boy begins to fire up, unloading with chops, only for Arn to whip him into the corner for the Flair flip. But Nate lands on the apron, ducking a charging Enforcer to send him over the ropes and to the floor.
I love that Rick just goes through the motions because, muscle memory, realizes that Arn knows better and escapes to the floor. He can't outrun him, knows it's coming, falls to the floor. It's less bad than the clothesline to the floor.
The Nature Boy then comes off the top turnbuckle with a double axe handle out to the floor before hitting several chops and right hands. Back in the ring, Flair keeps up the attack with stomps, chops, rolling knee drops, before making a cover with his feet on the top rope for several 2 counts.
I mean, Arn's a big, beefy boy.
Anderson firing up himself, blocking Nature's attack, and delivering right hands and a back body drop of his own for multiple 2 counts. Flair then begs off as Double A cocks back, but the ref blocks the blow, allowing the Nature Boy to cheap shot Arn. The Nature Boy then tosses the Enforcer out to the floor, following out to deliver a chop, but then charges into a back body drop. Arn begins to punch away, and he goes for a suplex, but Flair blocks and reverses it for one of his own. We get back in the ring and Nate with a stalling suplex that takes it out of both of them. So it's a delayed cover by Flair for a 2 count. More chops from the Nature Boy before sending Arn to the ropes, where Flair telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Anderson to go for a sunset flip. But Nate stays up and punches down. But Double A has moved. Arn then sends Nature Boy to the corner for another Flair flip, but he gets tied up in a tree of woe instead, allowing the Enforcer to take his boots to him. Anderson calls for the DDT, only for Nate to hook the top rope to block him. But we do get a Flair flop. The Nature Boy is up first, and he heads to the top turnbuckle, only for Double A to meet him there to press slam him off to the mat.
You're the press slam.
Arn then comes off the second rope, only for Flair to clothesline him out of midair before locking on the figure 4.
No!
After a few moments, the Enforcer is able to turn the hold over, forcing Nate to release it. The Nature Boy then chop blocks Anderson from behind, and he goes for the figure 4 again. But Double A counters with a small package for a near fall.
And the crowd is hot.
Flair continues to work the knee to the point that Arn collapses to the mat on an Irish whip. All of a sudden, Brian Pillman hops on the apron, yelling at Nate, with Flair just telling him to fuck off. So Flyin Brian decks him from behind, with the Nature Boy retaliating. Once Flair turns his attention back to Double A, Pillman kicks him in the back of the head, staggering him long enough for the Enforcer to deliver a DDT for the pin and the win.
I mean, did we think Arn Anderson was going to win?
I kind of hoped you would.
No.
Did we hope Arn Anderson was going to win?
Yes.
Did we want Arn Anderson to win like this?
No.
I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it,
because
too.
it puts the heat on fucking Flyin Brian.
Yeah, I'm okay with it as well because Rick's not going to lose without that. And Arn's not going to pin Rick without that because Arn's that kind of guy. Rick's that kind of guy. We know where they know they're close enough to understand where they are on the totem pole, and they understand that Pillman is potentially the future. And they had, like, we went through the moves of this match, but all the intangibles are what makes it and what proves these guys are just better than everybody else. It's the fact that, I mean, obviously they know each other, but they've never had a match against each other as Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Maybe they did 15 years ago that we don't know about, but not in any meaningful way. But here, it's meaningful, but it's the intangibles. It's the relationship. It's all the things in between. The things that we miss today now, where a lot of, like, we see things where people do incredible physical stuff, but it's the selling, it's the emotion, it's the fact that these guys know each other. It's Arn Anderson just pointing at Ric Flair and, like, it giving you chills. So, like, here, that makes Pillman showing up, it actually helps Pillman as opposed to him showing up in the middle of as much as we love Dustin Rhodes, a Dustin Rhodes Bunkhouse Buck match.
Yeah.
Like, this is a totally different stratosphere.
And it just makes me wonder, because I can't remember if this is going to push Arn and Flair back together in that whole nobody comes after my brother except for me mentality, and gives Pillman the official heel turn.
Yeah. But, I mean, like, honestly, I don't think this could have been done any more intelligently in a, like, wrestling format.
Well, I'll let you know at the next pay-per-view, you will see more of this combo.
Okay.
So I just looked it up, and this is the first time that they had ever been on opposite sides of the ring.
I mean,
At least listed on Cage Match.
yeah, like how we said that we'd seen Pillman and Bad against each other a bunch of times, and they just legitimately pulled the best out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Arn and Rick are friends, incredible wrestlers, some of the best to have ever done the thing. First match, and I don't think it could have been done any better at this point in time with the history the two men have.
Yeah.
The only thing that could be better, which would be changing history, is that if Hogan wasn't here and maybe Rick had the belt, that would have been great. I would have loved that. But considering that they're technically the second tier of WCW, like, this is kind of perfect.
Tony then sends us to a video package where we see the Taskmaster warning Hogan about the dangers of the WarGames match. with the most annoying voice ever.
Voila!
Oh,
Sound like that.
You guys don't like the Taskmaster promo?
No.
I thought it was
Not with that
Taskmaster.
voice.
I thought it was kind of fun. He crunches the roses. I like his frost dad, his giant frost dad, with like the frosty beard. I mean, I'm trying to have fun because I know that it's not going to be very fun, so I'm trying to have fun now.
We then see video of the Giant and his monster truck running over Hogan's bike before the show.
Which I was happy to see because they talked about it earlier. But this is the kind of thing they should have shown 2 or 3 times because he really smashed the shit out of that motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much a motorcycle costs, like 12 grand or something, 13 grand, 16 grand, 20 grand.
Who knows?
But either way, he
Was it a
smashed the
Harley?
shit out of that motor. It was a Harley.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff only rides Harleys.
We go back to Shivani and the Brain, who preview the match, before they send us to another video package, where we get highlights of all the competitors in our main event, before seeing the Dungeon of Doom taking down Hogan at Mount Doom. Hulk has declared war, so he recruited some help, and now that Vader is AWOL, they have brought in Sting's friend, Lex Luger.
Details available on the hotline, y'all.
I love the package. I love the crummy dungeon with like the purple lighting, and Hulk Hogan being in that situation is very funny. And then I love the image of Sting and Macho Man behind a fucking 50 caliber minigun, and like just like flames. And there's like just looks like a really bad set of like a fan made remake of Predator. It's awesome.
We go to the back, Mean Gene's there with Hogan, Savage, Sting, and Luger. And Hulk says,
I just drank a couple gallons of Agent Orange, so I'm impervious to pain.
and Macho's asked if there's any dissension in the group. Because, last time we saw Luger and Hogan, they were kind of shoving each other in the middle of the ring.
I mean, Luger showed up and he's like, hey, I'll team up with you, but I want my title match down the line.
And Savage basically says, united we stand, devastating is what we are.
I mean,
That was a good line.
Savage is always good.
But this promo was very weird and very over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody got their 2 cents in. It was, for 4 guys trading the mic, it was better than a lot of times we've seen 4 guys trade the mic.
Yes.
I will say
Especially
that.
when Hogan was probably like, just don't worry, guys. I got this.
Yeah, the Agent Orange thing is the standout. Obviously, it inspired the gasoline that will get us through
That's right.
match 6 of the Brawl to Fall them all.
So the cage gets lowered with pyro, followed by Mean Gene doing narration over the rules of our match.
And we will not be telling you the rules. We've
No.
done it in so many episodes.
Not doing it.
Yep.
There's too many rules.
Yeah.
But we head to our 6th match, the Dungeon of Doom of Zodiac, Shark, Kamala, and Meng, with the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, versus the Hulkamaniacs of Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, Lex Luger, and Hulk Hogan, with Jimmy Hart, in a WarGames match.
Oh my goodness.
And there's a stipulation.
If the Hulkamaniacs win, then the Taskmaster must face Hulk Hogan one-on-one in the ring for 5 minutes.
I know earlier Hogan said, I just want my 5 minutes with Taskmaster, and they didn't tell us that at all until after his promo when Michael Buffer allows us in on that information.
We haven't seen Shark since Uncensored 95, episode 146, back when he was Avalanche.
Do you guys notice anything new about the Shark? John Tenta, the sumo man of my heart, the earthquake.
He has a shark tattoo?
He covered up. He used to have the tiger tattoo. It's covered up. I was like, is it on his other arm? No. He covered it up with a giant shark tattoo. And I just thought that was commitment and funny. And also, maybe it looks a little better than his bad shark tattoo. But I've never seen a man with just one bad tattoo cover up his one bad tattoo with another kind of bad tattoo. So I just think it's funny and I love him.
So Sting and Shark start us off, with the big man using his size for an advantage, before using his teeth to chomp away.
Oh my God.
He's a biter. He learned it from Hogan.
Sting avoids an avalanche splash in the corner and looks to hit a stinger splash, but Shark just heads into the other ring, only for the Stinger to fly over the ropes for a clothesline. Sting then slams the Shark, but it hurts his back. But he still decides to try a second one, only for the big man to land on top of him. The Stinger's back is then worked on by a Shark hug.
How do the fins reach behind the back? Sting's not, like, Sting's a big man, but he's not that big.
But he escapes with some ear claps. The Shark then thinks that he is Sting, and he attempts to leap over all the ropes for a splash.
Oh my gosh.
But he gets caught across the top rope of both rings.
He got caught in that shallow water, man.
Allowing the Stinger to deliver some gut kicking, followed by Sting leaping over the ropes for a splash, only for the big man to catch him and throw him down to the mat. Shark then climbs over the ropes to enter the ring, straddling him for a moment to gloat, allowing the Stinger to kick him, causing the big man to crouch himself. Sting starts working the legs, clamping on a scorpion deathlock as the first period expires. And what do you know? The Dungeon of Doom win the toss, so Zodiac is in next.
I love that Zodiac isn't like dressed like the sketch of like the Zodiac killer, which probably wasn't as widely available at that point in time because of the internet, and David Fincher didn't make a fucking movie about it yet. But still, he's a zebra. He's just painted like a zebra.
Yeah.
Zodiac. The zebra's not even part of the like Zodiac signs.
I mean, you got a shark, so why not have a zebra?
The Stinger grabs hold of the top of the cage to hit multiple swinging kicks to knock the man formerly known as the Butcher away, before body slamming him and trying for a scorpion deathlock on him. Shark makes the save and they start to double team Sting with chokes, splashes, and double team clotheslines. The Stinger comes right back with a double clothesline of his own, but it doesn't faze the Shark. So Sting is then thrown into the cage as the period ends.
Here's my joke. Taskmaster must have been high as giraffe pussy when he came up with the Zodiac. I'm just trying to bring it back to the zoo.
Gotcha.
Macho Man enters and goes to town on the Dungeon of Doom, putting a Boston Crab on the Zodiac, but then the Shark clocks him over the head with a spin. Meng and Kamala start pulling Sting's arm underneath the cage from the floor to continue to work him over. Zodiac is choking Savage before the Stinger makes the save to see everyone brawl for a bit until Shark delivers a power slam. Now Meng and Kamala are pulling Macho's leg underneath the cage to work those over. Sting hits a clothesline and several elbow drops on Zodiac, while Savage is tossed in the cage by Shark as the period ends.
And Randy Anderson has been getting pretty involved lately because he sees them grabbing at the leg and he's like, no. It's like, I had the balls to pull Hulk Hogan's hair. So I have no issue messing with you guys.
Kamala comes in to work over the Stinger while Shark hits an atomic drop on Macho. Everybody's brawling away when the period ends and Lex Luger hits the ring, wiping the Dungeon of Doom all out with clotheslines. Lex then helps Savage send Zodiac into the cage, followed by Macho coming off the top rope with a double axe handle on Shark. The Hulkamaniacs have the advantage with each of the Dungeon of Doom members when Luger misses a clothesline on Zodiac and accidentally nails Savage from behind.
So it begins.
Macho starts fighting with Lex, causing Sting to have to break it up as the period ends, and Meng comes in to hit everybody with headbutts and kicks. More brawling and choking as the period ends, and Hogan makes his way in, throwing powder into everyone's eyes.
Everybody but Shark. He's only got 3 powders, not 4, but it's like, dog. Yeah. What are you doing with the powder?
Don't throw it at the biggest guy in the ring, by all means.
You're not the Taskmaster. Also, even Bobby Heenan points out that if he was managing this team, Earthquake would have gone in last because he's the biggest guy. So he's going to have, like, it's so silly that they put Earthquake in first. Is what it is. I love Meng. Meng probably has the best.
It's probably because he's a shark now.
He's a shark.
He's a shark. But Meng has the best, like, cardio of those guys, I'd imagine.
Right.
Just saying. Another thing I noticed about the Shark, he has a, like, wrist brace on.
That looks like teeth.
That just says Shark on it. But I was like, did he actually hurt his wrist? And he's like, well, maybe I'll just write Shark on it and put, like, some teeth on it. I don't know.
We also get the best line of the entire show right here.
Oh my gosh, bring it to me. I don't think I have it.
It's kind of like Bosnia in a cage.
Oh, Babby.
He couldn't point it out on a map. Mr. Zircon himself.
More brawling with Hulk taking on everyone, followed by throwing the Dungeon of Doom guys into the cage several times, shared by all of the Hulkamaniacs. Hogan throws Zodiac into the cage one more time before locking on the camel clutch for the submission and the win.
And it's so funny because he puts it on and Tony Schiavone, I don't know what Tony Schiavone calls it, but then Bobby Heenan says, that's the camel clutch. That's the
move made
famous by the Sheik.
The Sheik.
We all know the Sheik, Hogan, like the famous lore behind that, which is like, you know,
it's still burning to this day.
Yeah, some I don't know if justice is the right word, but it's
check Twitter.
It's poetic.
Fuck Hogan on a daily basis.
Yep, but I just thought it was funny that Tony Schiavone didn't say, "Oh, the camel clutch." It's like the thing you would say is that it's like it's far enough away that like even Vince couldn't get mad about that, as if he's watching it. Yep. Bruce Pritchard will tell him.
Post-match, security stops the Taskmaster from leaving down the aisle, forcing him into the cage alone.
They pass him off to Sting. Sting's got to get something here.
Sullivan is then thrown into every side of the cage by Hogan multiple times.
7 times. I counted it. Potentially 8, but at least 7.
They then go outside of the ring, where he's thrown into the cage
Again.
Which
doesn't even make sense. They don't go to the floor. They go to, like, the steps, and then, like, from the steps, because the cage is flush with the outside of the apron, and he, like, just kind of, like, pushes them like this, where it's, like, doesn't even make any sense.
They go back into the ring, and Hulk hits a clothesline and starts using some tape to choke Sullivan before hitting the big boot.
The wrist tape.
The wrist tape that he's choking the back of his neck with.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, the Giant makes his way down the aisle, throwing Randy Anderson aside to enter the cage. The Giant then bounds himself over each set of ropes to be in the same ring as Hogan.
Kind of the most impressive stuff I've seen the Giant do. He is pretty nimble.
Yeah, young Giant doing that kind of stuff is the stuff that I miss him doing just in general.
And they're talking about how they're pulling comparisons, of course, to Andre here all over the place.
He grabs Hogan from behind by the neck.
The same way Andre did all those years ago.
Hulk turns and starts to fire away to no avail. So the Giant grabs Hogan by the throat and snaps it.
It actually, considering we've seen head snaps in wrestling for years since this one actually looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, like
Hogan does a good job.
Him doing it. Well, no, I was gonna say him doing it looks good. Hogan's reaction looks like somebody from a Steven Seagal movie.
I think Hogan's reaction looks pretty good, honestly.
Nah.
I was impressed. I know you got those orange glasses on. I try to give him flowers when I can, and I thought it looked pretty good.
Sting, Luger, and Savage all run back down to the ring to make the save, sending the Giant and the Taskmaster out the other side of the cage. We then hear Buffer yelling for the paramedics over the loudspeaker as Tony says his goodbyes.
And Bobby Heenan
Bobby's
says,
laughing his ass off.
Hulkamania is through!
And the show goes to credits. So I ask you, gentlemen, what are your overall thoughts of Fall Brawl 95?
Outside of the WarGames match, I think the show kind of rocks. I kind of like the show a whole lot. I don't like the WarGames match. Surprise. I do think that the finish of Hogan getting his neck snapped in the ring and actually selling it to where he's on his back, surrounded by his friends as the camera leaves the show, is good and honestly pretty nice thing for Hogan to do. A guy that doesn't do nice things for other people. Granted, he's creating a monster that he's trying to make money off of, but how often does Hogan end a show not standing for 5 minutes to his theme song?
Exactly.
Even when he loses or
his
whatever.
posing.
Or even somebody else loses for him because he's unable to, or something silly happens, whatever. But here he actually, the show ends with him in peril. So give him a big up for that. I think the WarGames match might be one of the most boring ones, but it's hard to remember the boring ones because there's a lot of them. we talked about it early. That's kind of why I brought it up early in the show. Was when you think of WarGames, what are the things you think of? And I told you the 3 things I think of, and none of them are particularly spectacular, but they are. When I brought them up, you guys at least remember them. But the rest of the show I think is awesome, and the stupid match is at least hilarious and like 2 minutes long. Of our CIA Cobra thing is at least a bizarre oddity that is kind of worth 5 minutes on YouTube, right? I could send that to somebody that doesn't like wrestling, and they would just get a kick out of it. They might not be laughing their ass off, but they wouldn't be like, why did you send this to me? I'd be like, I sent it to you because it's fucking funny. And there's two matches on the show that I adore.
Let's see.
And a tag team match that I was impressed by. I think Bunkhouse and Slater were really good here. I think that the story was fun, and I think that everybody brought heat.
See, I feel like that match is too long.
It's probably too long, but I think
match?
that it's...
The tag match.
Yeah.
I would still... Yeah.
Too many of them.
Stud Stable works a southern style, and Harlem Heat needs a little bit more up pace for them to be impressive.
I think so, but I think the Stud Stable was less boring than I've seen them previously. I feel like they brought...
I thought
bit.
They worked over each other way too long.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
I ain't gonna lie. That's my least favorite match on this show.
Yeah, I will. I mean, outside of the funny match,
I'll take the WarGames match just because I know that it's WarGames.
Okay, yeah,
so I get it.
I can't agree.
It's what it is.
Can't agree with that. I kind of liked the way it was put together. It was too long, but it is what it is. What else?
It's actually the short. I think it's actually the shortest WarGames match there is.
Oh no, I meant the tag match was too long.
Well,
the WarGames match wasn't too long, but it was nothing happened.
Nothing ever happens in those WarGames matches.
That's true. That's why the things that I remember are
the last one was
Dungeon
Booker T, aka Kane or Cole, because I can't remember which one he was.
Pillman is the most memorable thing from WarGames, really.
The Shockmaster or something
Probably.
like that with a chokeslam or. I don't remember what the hell it was. It was something nothing.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. Yeah, it's not even worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean the bulk of the show, there was lots of enjoyable things on here. I mean, we've got a short list match that made the list. You've got Flair and Anderson.
I think Flair and Arn even has short list vibes for me just because I was emotionally invested.
Yeah,
just because I love the guys.
I love the match, but I don't know if it's shortlist quality.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, but it's not far from that. Like, it's not.
It's on the long list, not on the short list.
Yeah. But I could see it being there, but it doesn't help.
The whole show is on the long list.
I thought it was a pretty easy watch, but I kept the last match. I watched all of the show and was pretty wildly entertained. And I was like, well, I can't watch this WarGames match. I gotta
You
go to
cheated
sleep.
yourself by doing that because you stopped when everything was all glossy and rosy and wonderful and fine, and that was how you left yourself to remember it. And then you watched the WarGames match.
Maybe, but that wasn't even Matt's least favorite.
And that just became its own little.
That is true.
Show.
It is true that there was 40, legitimately probably 40 minutes that I watched a 2-hour show, and I watched a really good 2-hour show. And then there was a 40 minutes, which could make a huge difference if I watched it all in one sitting.
I'm going to say that the reason the WarGames match doesn't bother me is because of the ending of the of the segment, I guess I should say, not the match.
Yeah, it's kind of like
the Giant coming out and doing what he does. It kind of I can see the light at the end of the Hogan tunnel, and it kind of gets me a little bit excited.
And also, I didn't expect the Giant
might do something
to be as nimble as he was. Like when he was just hopping over those ropes so confidently, I was like, "Oh wow!" I just never I've seen him as the Big Show. I've seen him in WWF. He didn't move like that.
That's 22, 23-year-old youngster.
He has He has never had a match at all at this point.
Yeah, but that's
he is a power plant guy.
Yeah. So I mean, he looks good. He's big, and it's Who knew the Big Show was kind of handsome here in '95? He's got a nice little face, his little stubble, and his long hair. But I mean, Pillman and how many? I don't know if there's enough flowers in 5 miles for me to throw at Pillman and.
Yeah, we need a bad blaster.
And with flowers and
confetti.
Mm-hmm. My God, especially I was kind of nervous because Pillman had a few rough spots on that first Nitro. Still a great match. Love the match, but here, second quote unquote big match back, and they did magic. It was magic. I think it was why we watch wrestling. Is kind of how I feel about that match. It's what the short list entails. It's like, oh, when it's the match is over and you're like, that's why I put myself through this shit sometimes. Is for things like that, where it all comes together and like the guys are just like on the right wavelength with. You don't even necessarily need the right history, but there is history between these guys, and it's not like Arn and Flair. We just know we've seen these guys have matches a bunch of times, so it means something when they go the distance for only a title shot. It's not even like for an actual belt, but like they leave it all out there just for that. So that already makes whatever belt they're going for next even that much more important because of the like knockdown drag out show they put on.
Good. Where's the smart marks at? All right. Fuck you.
I think it's time we smark it up. So what are some of the best moments of the show? It's like Bosnia in a cage.
I mean, Bobby saying, what does he say? What's the matter? Or like, what's wrong with them? During the Rick and
Hogan.
And
Hogan's what's wrong.
And Double A, he's like, he's like mad with, frustrated with himself. It's like, I don't know who to cheer for, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I know it's Hogan. And it's just, Bobby, you're so sweet, so smart.
The one and several of the dropkick moments from the Pillman and Bad match, where one's coming off the rope, the other one is drop kicking up at them. Bobby's maniacal laugh at the end of the show with the death of Hulkamania.
Yes.
I'm gonna even throw in there the
Pittman coming off the top.
Well, just that whole thing was just like
a fever dream.
Yeah, it was weird enough to make me want to know what the fuck was going on, and
short enough to not get angry at it.
Yeah.
It was like just an oddity of
and then just trying to remember, why do I not remember either of these guys really? I mean, I know we've seen Pittman in a match already on one of the other shows, but
yeah.
I think you guys give that match much more grace than I do.
I just think that it's charming.
It's the comic relief I needed in between those super long matches.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of the bad charming, the good bad charming of it all.
Renegade doing his Muda homework.
I already forgot about the Rennie match. I mean, that's the longest one. I don't think it was.
Oh, it's not a good match by any means, but
yeah,
I'd save that for most.
I'd rather have that go longer, and then the Pittman Cobra thing be like the sweet spot of like of a smirk, whereas the other thing's just forgettable, and that's fine.
Cobra, his only offense was an Irish whip. Like it.
Yeah.
It's a pointless match.
Yeah, like I said,
there's no.
The only flowers I gave him was the headlock.
We did way too much for that, for it not to be anything.
I mean, the only reason it went that long was because they had to fucking convince him that it was okay.
Take 5 minutes off the tag match and actually give them, 5 minutes to actually have like a competitive match, and maybe I'm like,
or give us an intro, a little more of an intro to it, so we know really what the fuck was going on, because.
I mean, it was just an excuse to put a belt on Paige, who's a good heel, and to get Rennie out of the picture. And it did that. And I assume Rennie's out of the picture. But we'll find out soon enough.
How about most disappointing? The tag match for me.
See, I don't feel that way.
I can see the tag
match. There was just too much working over each other. Like I said earlier, Harlem Heat needs a quicker pace for them to be fun.
Yeah, but I think that it was
It was just a clash of styles that didn't work for me.
A nice breath from them and the Nasties.
I mean, I'm not going to say the ending, the whole Sherri, Colonel Parker stuff. It's
fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. It's just I don't feel like these two teams match up well.
I think
style.
I think that like floating over the whole match, that being like the oeuvre around this, kept me engaged to forgive the length a little bit. I obviously cannot forgive the actual length of it, but if it was going to be, I'd rather have it longer than the WarGames match longer.
It was longer than the WarGames match.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm saying that if I would rather have more time there than I would later in the WarGames match, because you didn't care either way.
I need
Michael hates time.
Both those.
No,
I mean,
yeah, I'm saying if we're splitting it up, if we're making that match 10 minutes,
my
10-minute match.
My personal opinion, every single match went too long.
Yep.
Every single match went too long.
Yeah, they could have put like some Blue Bloods in here or something, had some other kind of match. I'm not mad at the first match, obviously. I still love Arn Flair.
And see, I think Arn Flair went too long.
Yeah. Arn Flair went too long.
Like,
Johnny and Brian. Theirs didn't necessarily go too long. It was just the explanation for it after it went into overtime. If you're gonna need a winner, why even set a fucking time limit? Just let them wrestle.
That's true. It's just it's all for heightening the tension. And I think that it did it well. It worked on me.
It does work.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it's too long because it does go like 28 minutes. And should you start off a pay-per-view with a 28-minute match?
I would say no.
Probably
but
not.
If it's this good, then maybe. But if I hadn't seen these guys wrestle for the last 5 years, or 4 years, or however long, 3 years, then I would might feel differently about it. If I just popped into this show, it might be a different story. But I have that context that got me pretty hyped. This, for a 6-match, quote-unquote 6-7 match show, Taskmaster gets beat down. We can call it a match if we want, whatever. But this should have been an 8 or 9 match show. If we trimmed, we could have got another. We could have got
probably just would have put another tag team match somewhere.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we got like a Regal Orndorff in there or something. Just to give an example, like we got guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, we wouldn't have got a Regal Orndorff. We would have gotten a Blue Bloods versus American Males or something like that.
Yeah,
which
Nasty Boys versus American Males. They would have put that show from the main event onto the main card.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I'm not mad here.
Best performer of the night. It's Pillman for me because he goes from when we first seen he's face, and he just gradually turns heel
in 28 minutes.
And then when he comes and kicks Flair, it's the full heel turn.
Yep. I mean, this show is kind of the show for Pillman and the
But
Giant.
it also does. But if you also think about it, it does the double turn for Flair and Arn as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it turns
And so that's what I was trying to.
Also,
remember.
it puts over Johnny B. Bad maybe in like the biggest way, where even if you were like a smart fan at this point in time, you couldn't hand wave Johnny B. Bad completely after that.
And now you get Johnny versus Sting, after Sting's had all these weird fights over the last however many months.
Spoiler alert, both of them end up getting title shots. Just letting you know. I don't know if we see either one of them, but just let you know that both of them do get title shots.
Pillman and Johnny both get them?
Yep.
Okay.
So this match kind of was it was a good match.
Seriously, they had no idea what sudden death meant, so that makes perfect sense.
I mean, Flair is always Flair. He's always
Bobby.
Bobby's always Bobby.
Bobby being
I think
Bobby.
I think pissed off Arn with a grudge. I love because it's the subtle things that are all very believable.
I should have gone back to most. I wanted Flair to get spine bustered so bad.
Me too, so bad because he does the stalling. He does the stalling suplex on Arn, and it's not quite a brain buster, but like that's the whole reason they did that was for us to see Ric Flair potentially.
I mean, at one point they land. I think it's after the stalling suplex, and you can kind of see them laughing.
Yeah, They were having
because
a
they're
blast.
just like having a blast. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that match is beautiful. I think that Arn really, he's so good at being without minus the times where he's got a bucket on his head. Like in a serious match, he's so good at being serious and being serious in a believable way. The pointing, the slap, the yelling, the body language, like he's got it all outside of a full head of hair.
How about most surprising?
I'm going to throw back to your Renegade Muda.
Yeah, I'm like studying
gymnastics.
Muda.
I feel like we may have seen him do a handspring back elbow before, but maybe not. We probably just saw somebody else.
I would have
do it.
remembered that.
I feel like I would have too, but I remember seeing it and being like,
because I remember seeing it, and as soon as I saw it, I was just like, I stopped and I was like, text you guys.
Yeah.
Like,
and the other thing is
someone
like,
stood in the Muda.
Yeah, the other thing is that it actually looked good.
Yeah,
it didn't look bad. It looked really good. It was crazy that the only things he did well was a side headlock, which nobody does well. Even our favorite wrestlers don't do it very well. And then the back spring elbow, which he did great.
I mean, the most surprising thing, Hogan sold something, guys.
He did. And you know what he did it for?
Agent Orange.
The payday.
He wants that match to be in a 10,000 person arena. So he's got to sell that neck. Hopefully he doesn't do a package where he's got a neck brace on and then he takes the neck brace off and whispers to a crowd of people like, "Hey guys, my neck's okay."
Kids, take your pants off.
Oh no.
Oh wait.
No, but you know the time where he did the knee thing on a pay-per-view, where he like took the knee strap or arm strap off and was like, but it's like
where him and Flair were literally phoning in their performances on the same show, both not in the building.
Yeah, poor Flair. You say poor Flair. He's fucking Ric Flair. But my God, such a shame. The fantasy booking we could do. History is history, and we're here to talk about it.
And now for a look back even further into the history of wrestling.
The dusty finish.
Tatsumi Fujinami had defeated Vader and held the IWGP Heavyweight Championship for over 300 days, when it became time for the biggest show of the year for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Fujinami would face the greatest 18 champion Riki Choshu to unify the belts at Super Warriors in Tokyo Dome on January 4th, 1992. The two men would focus on mat wrestling and headlocks to begin, before Choshu would slam Tatsumi multiple times to gain the advantage. Riki would apply a sharpshooter, but Fujinami would get out and lock on a sharpshooter of his own. Choshu would hit a top rope double stomp and a pile driver before going for an ab stretch, which Tatsumi would escape with a back suplex. Fujinami would then head up top, only to be met by Riki to deliver a superplex and a drop kick for a near fall. Choshu would then finish up Tatsumi with a pair of suplexes and a lariat to become the IWGP Heavyweight Champion for the third time. Riki Choshu would defend the title over the next few months until one of the new generation would step up under his villainous guise.
I smell a Yakuza kick.
Or one of his buddies. Next week, Gangsta's Paradise.
Oh, I imagine this is a ECW show.
That is correct.
So I imagine New Jack might have to cut a bitch.
He just might.
Very possible. We're going to get power in the money in the power, minute after minute, hour after hour. Maybe.
I feel like it's kind of been a while for an ECW show. Maybe I'm high. I'm not high, but just saying.
Not yet, but
just
maybe
saying.
we'll be next week.
Just saying. I feel like we've been doing doubles. Double ECW, double WWF. Just backing them up. So it's kind of nice when you go on a run and you're like, next flavor. It's like the right now we're dealing in a pint of Neapolitan ice cream. Got a strawberry, which is obviously ECW, because there's blood. Got your vanilla, which is WWF, because it's squeaky clean. And got our chocolate, because Hogan is the champion, and that's the color of poop.
I was wondering how he was going to get there with the chocolate.
I didn't know how I was going to get there either.
I was going to go with chocolate. I mean, can be bland at the top, but there's some stuff that's sweet.
Yeah. I didn't know where I was going to go with the chocolate either. I knew that it was going to be. I got to the chocolate and I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And it just came out of my mouth.
With which one's which.
Yeah.
But I was wondering where you were going to go with the chocolate.
I did not know when I started. Like, just about anything that comes out of my mouth.
Nicely done.
Music for this week's show is Guitar Killer by Eric Jean Caspar. And Hogan won our main event, so we play his theme music, American Made by Jimmy Hart.
Hey, he's American made.
Made in the Americas.
If you like this episode or any of our other ones, please go out there, rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts at. If you have any questions, comments, concerns...
Recipes, drink ideas. Have you ever been to Philadelphia? Tell me what you ate there.
They had the like pull lever nacho cheese over soggy chips and a Budweiser at the 2300 Arena.
There you go.
23. I was gonna say 29.
So what you're saying is I should just stop at the gas station and get some nachos and beer and like spill the beer on the nachos.
You got it. Perfect. It's got to be a 4-pack of Tall Boy Bud Light Heavies.
Actually, spoiler alert, I've got a box of official Philly snacks that have finally made it that I'm gonna bring some. So
I'm excited.
We finally get to
looking
taste
forward to next week.
Official Philly stuff.
I think the last time you ordered fancy snacks, you got those weird fudge cookies where I was like, could feel my blood turn to syrup, but it was so good going down.
Yes, we've had the fudge cookies, we've had the spicy jams and jellies.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was a good week. That was a good week.
Now we get some Philly snacks.
Yeah, don't tell me.
But if you have any of those things, you can always email us at wrestlinghistoryx@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at wrestlinghistox. That's wrestling HISTOX. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.